Chapter 5 Farewell. Do you want to know it now? Li was surprised. Shinshibai has experienced so many things in one day, and he can still change so quickly. His heart is so strong. Shinshibai nodded and looked up at the dazzling sky. Those eyes are full of expectations for the outside world. In the past 15 years, he has never been out to see the outside world. It can be said that he has been isolated from the world for 15 years. Now that he finally has the opportunity to know and contact the world, how could he give up this opportunity? The world was born, and there was no living being in the world. Until the center of the world gave birth to the world god, with the improvement of the world god's divine power, the world began to prosper. Until the fall of the world god 10,000 years ago. Li also looked up at the sky, his eyes were full of endings. After the fall of the world god, the 81 peak war gods under the world god's command fought fiercely for control of the world. The world was thus divided, and the original complete world was divided into countless universes of different sizes. The only thing that stands out is the 9 level universes that surround the center of the world. The division of the universe level depends on the number of God-level powerhouses in the universe. A 9-level universe means that there are 9 gods in the universe. This is what the world looks like today. Li sighed. His grandfathers once witnessed the prosperous world before the gods of the world fell. It was an era when martial arts prospered, many creatures multiplied, and geniuses were born in large numbers. But now. Then what does the universe we live in look like? Shinshibai asked. Our universe is called the Haotian universe, which is a 3rd-level universe. The central temple is the ruler of the universe. The temple divides the Haotian universe into 18 domains. Your current location is the northern underworld region in the north. The northern underworld region, the border, is a battlefield. Li said. Battlefield? Has anyone invaded our universe? Shinshibai asked. Not only our universe, but all universes in the world are in a state of war. Even the 9 supreme universes in the center of the world. Li explained. To be more precise, apart from the fact that there is almost no large-scale war in the south of Haotian universe, the borders in the other 3 directions are all raging with war. Teacher, is the god of the world a living being? Shinshibai asked. He was very curious about the god who created the prosperous world 10,000 years ago. He can be said to be a living being, or it can be said to be not a living being. Li said. What do you mean? Shinshibai asked. He was conceived in this world, not by living beings. In other words, his existence is a miracle. Li exclaimed. Then. What else did Shinshibai want to ask, when suddenly a loud noise came from the border of Baiming territory, resounding throughout the entire Baiming territory. It also resounded throughout the entire Sichuan star. Shinshibai and Li were also shocked by the loud noise. They all looked up at the sky, wanting to see what happened. Sichuan star is far away from the border of Baiming territory, one is in the south of Baiming territory, and the other is in the north of Baiming territory. But this loud noise actually reached Sichuanqing. Countless creatures were amazed. What happened? In the center of Beiminjiu, countless buildings are full of ancient atmosphere. The creatures at this moment were shocked by the loud noise, and they walked out of the building one after another, wanting to see what was going on. There is only one hall that is different. There is no living being outside the hall, but inside this magnificent hall. Several high-level officials of the Central Temple's military department appeared here. 5 great men were sitting on both sides of a long table. On the main seat was a middle-aged man who bowed his head and said nothing. They were discussing the legend of the northern underworld. Comes with a bang. Although the middle-aged man was dressed simply, he was still able to sit in the main seat in front of many great powers, which showed that he was special. Minister, why are you here in person? The person in the first position on the right asked. He is the highest official sent by the Central Temple in the Northern Underworld region, the owner of the Northern Underworld region, Yu Tianrong. Sitting on the main seat is the military minister of the Central Temple, Wang Xiantian. Wang Xiantian frowned, rubbing his forehead with his hands, looking very irritable. Why don't I come? The ghost universe is overwhelmed by the army. Minister, I just found out. The ghost universe led an army of 13 million, and more than half of the strong ones above the king level. They used brutal means to directly break through the large formation arranged at the border. The Dragon Soul galaxy close to the border has fallen. Zhua, a great man on the side, stood up and said, Look. Wang Xiantian pointed at Yu Tianrong and cursed. What did you do, the domain master? The ghost universe can't detect such a big move, and the big array arranged at the border was destroyed in less than a year. What are you doing in this position? Yu Tianrong lowered his head and said nothing. His face was very ugly. He didn't dare to refute, this time it was indeed his incompetence. The ghost universe gathers tens of thousands of elites at the border, but as the master of a domain, he doesn't know anything. A man beside Yu Tianrong quickly stepped forward to smooth things out and said, Minister, calm down. We still have a chance to turn the tables. Our people found a person in Kixwangsing, and he is absolutely capable of turning the tide, saving the situation, and giving us follow-up army reinforcements provide time. Who? Wang Xiantian suddenly calmed down when he heard this. The dean of Tiancheng College, Dean Li Yi. The man said Li Yi's name and added the word dean to express his respect. It can be seen that Li Yi is a person whose identity is not simple. He? Wang Xiantian was a little puzzled. Didn't Li Yi go to Xiaoyao to be happy long ago? How could it appear on a lower planet? Are you sure? The man nodded affirmatively. Okay. Wang Xiantian clapped the table and stood up. It's fine if he's here, I'll go find him. You make a battle plan, and I want to keep the elites of more than 10 million here forever. Yes. Everyone stood up immediately. On the Chishuan star at this moment, an invisible wave covered the entire planet. Then it continued to spread to the entire North Underworld, until after sensing the situation on the border, it disappeared immediately. In the Dragon Soul galaxy, an old man in a black robe stared at the void, and the word ghost was embroidered on the chest of the black robe. The old man muttered to himself, Is it wrong just now? In Qi Xianxing, Li Yi put away his spiritual sense, and when he opened his eyes, he saw Xinqiubai's big sparkling eyes looking at him. Seeing that Li Yi heard the loud noise, Xinqiubai closed his eyes and frowned, looking at him with interest. Teacher, what's wrong with you? Xinqiubai opened his eyes when he saw Li Yi. Qiubai, what state are you in now? Li Yi did not answer Xinqiubai's question directly. 9-stage tempering realm, the medicinal power of the medicinal pill is too strong. If it wasn't for the sudden feeling that the medicinal power didn't know where it was going, I guess it could still go up. Xinqiubai said excitedly, his hands and feet dancing uncontrollably. Okay, then you can go out and see the outside world. Li Yi took out a thick book and a jade slip from the storage ring and handed them to Xinqiubai. This book introduces everything in our universe in detail. It can be regarded as an encyclopedia. This jade slip contains a kind of movement technique. You can try it if you are hunted down in the future. Xinqiubai looked at the book and jade slip in his hand inexplicably, looked up at Li Yi, and asked, Teacher, what do you mean? Teacher suddenly has something to do, and I have to leave you for a while. Li Yi stroked Xinqiubai's jet black hair. After I leave, you will go to the Zhuangxingmen exam and go there to practice. Teacher, are you leaving me too? Xinqiubai was obviously not ready for this sudden scene. Just like before, he was also unprepared for the scene he saw when he went home. Xinqiubai's mood suddenly fell to the bottom again. He originally thought that he was alone from now on. But Li Yi's appearance gave him a trace of comfort, but now this trace of comfort has to leave him. The teacher will only be a passerby on your growth path in the future. You have to learn. Li Yi comforted Xinqiubai, but he didn't expect Xinqiubai to suddenly explode. Learn what? Have you learned to be alone? Xinqiubai's originally clear and transparent pupils suddenly became cloudy, and tears rolled in his eyes. Xinqiubai clenched his hands tightly, and the breeze blew away the long and untrimmed hair on his face. The face with a reluctant expression appeared in Li Yi's eyes. In Xinqiubai's heart, although Li Yi was only his teacher. But he has long regarded Li Yi as his relative, and now his only relative is leaving him. Li Yi looked at Xinqiubai's handsome face, with shoulder-length hair. He suddenly realized that this was the first time he had seen his disciple's face for the first time in half a year. A sense of guilt emerged in Li Yi's heart. In his eyes, Xinqiubai was just one of his disciples. But he never thought that Xinqiubai regarded him as his only relative. This emotion was mixed in Li Yi's heart, and he did not leave for a long time. Xinqiubai put the jade slips and books that Li Yi handed him into the storage ring that Li Yi gave him, turned around and left the top of the Sirius Mountains, and walked straight to the foot of the mountain. Li Yi looked at the back of Xinqiubai's departure, but he did not make a sound to save him. Just watching him leave quietly, the monster beside Xinqiubai looked at him greedily, wanting to swallow him. But Li Yi shot and smashed it with a palm, and did not disturb Xinqiubai by those blind monsters. Not long after Xinqiubai walked, a breeze came. Wang Xiantian fell out of thin air and appeared in front of Li Yi. "Old friend, you're here," Li Yi said, and the two talked like old friends. "I can't do it if I don't come. How many old fellows can't I stand alone?" Wang Xiantian sighed. "It seems that you sensed my spiritual sense, so you found me, right?" Li Yi asked. "That's not true." Wang Xiantian circled Li Yi and looked at him. "It was you Tianrong's subordinate who saw you here. I didn't believe it at first. How could that old guy from Tiancheng appear on such a trashy planet? But when I came, I found out that it was true." "Humph." Li Yi snorted. "The name Tiancheng is not only the name of the academy, he also has a title, Tiancheng Emperor. Is there no one in your temple? Run so far just to find me? It's not like you don't know, old guy." Wang Xiantian sighed. "The war in the east and west is tight, and this time the northern underworld is an emergency. We didn't have time to recruit the strong back. So we can only come to you." "What time?" Li Yi agreed without delay, and immediately agreed to Wang Xiantian's request. "The Emperor's domain has urgently dispatched an army of 7 million to come here. The two of us joined forces to hold down the old guys in the ghost universe, waiting for the army to encircle and eat them in one fell swoop." Wang Xiantian's right fist trembled suddenly. 7 million against more than 10 million, the central army of the empire is really extraordinary. Li Yi exclaimed. "Humph." Wang Xiantian smiled contemptuously when he heard Li Yi's words. "The imperial palace has not yet used the central guard. To fight these 5 scumbags, the central army is enough. Let's go." Wang Xiantian patted Li Yi on the shoulder, reminding him. "Now?" Li Yi was a little surprised. Has the front line deteriorated to the point where they need to leave now? Dragon Soul Galaxy has already fallen, and the Central Army sent them directly from the teleportation array. How can we eat them if we don't go now? Wang Xiantian rolled his eyes at Li. "All right then." Li Yi sighed, but after thinking about it, he said, "Wait for me here for a few minutes." As soon as Li finished speaking, he disappeared in place. Alas! Before Wang Xiantian could speak, Li Yi left. The right hand that stretched out to block Li Yi was awkwardly retracted. Xinqiubai was dressed in plain clothes and leaned dully beside his grandfather Xinqian's tombstone. He raised his head to the sky, not knowing what he was thinking. Suddenly, a figure blocked Xinqiubai's sight, so he took a closer look. Li looked at Xinqiubai with a smile. The two stared at each other for a long time without speaking. "I'll be leaving in a while." Li Yi was the first to speak to break the silence. The coldness of the night was cold outside, leaving a thin layer of frost on the two of them. Well. Xinqiubai nodded. After all, he was alone. He had clearly decided to get used to this kind of life, but he didn't know why he couldn't get used to it at this time. Remember what I said? Li Yi asked. Xinqiubai nodded again, without any other unnecessary actions. Okay. Li Yi showed a smile he had never seen in his life. I'll be waiting for you at Tiancheng Academy. After speaking, Li Yi flew into the sky. Xinqiubai looked at Li Yi's smaller and smaller figure, suddenly stood up and shouted, "Teacher, I will definitely become what you want." Above the sky, when Li Yi's spiritual sense heard Xinqiubai's words, the complicated emotions in his heart were suddenly relieved. After a while, Li Yi's figure appeared in the void. Wang Xiantian stood quietly beside him, with the appearance of Xinqiubai in his eyes. Your new disciple? Wang Xiantian asked. No. Li Yi shook his head. He is the future and hope.